Welcome to First Unitarian Society of Minneapolis, the birthplace of Congregational Humanism. We carry on that tradition of free thought today, dedicated to promoting a free search for truth, meaning, and justice. Our web address is firstunitarian.org. Thank you for joining us.
So have any of you ever been to Toontown at Disneyland? Yeah. As you wander around there, you might come across a door that says this: by order of the Toontown Power Company, opening this door is absolutely, positively, and unquestionably forbidden, unless you feel like it. Now, should one venture to try to open the door, a series of crashes and loud noises comes from behind, indicating that perhaps you blew a transformer or a circuit had exploded, capable maybe of even plunging a whole city into a blackout. It's kind of the analog version of extreme clickbait, you know? Tempting one's curiosity to the limit. I expect that there are few who could actually resist this door. I know I couldn't. Someone named OK somewhere 1236 posted this on Reddit. Curiosity is dangerous. Nothing is more dangerous than the unknown. The idea that some doors are meant to stay locked isn't just superstition, it's a lesson we still teach children today. If you find a strange hole in the wild, don't put your hand inside. Don't eat what you don't recognize. Don't touch what you don't understand. Curiosity killed the cat, right? Still, I think generally we hold curiosity in high esteem. We want our children to be curious. It's a wonderful human trait, I think, a capacity that helps us to learn, to explore unknowns, and to make strong interpersonal connections. As we talked about earlier this month, curiosity is the pathway to experiences of awe and wonder. It's a companion to our beginner's minds. Takes us to that place where we can open ourselves to all the possibilities before us, and from that place to perhaps see things in a new and unexpected way. Curiosity can also be a great tool, maybe even a superpower, for creating the future that we dream of, as it can help us to make intentional and informed choices from a wide range of things. But today I want to explore the dangers of curiosity. And we go into this exploration with the caveat that I would not want ever, ever, ever to suggest that you not be curious. Except, because of course there are always exceptions. Now I know that we are people who generally don't want to accept limits of any kind. Limits on our rights, on our ability to be who we are, on our potential. But what if, at least in some particular instances, there should be limits or precautionary tales? What if there should be those times that curb our curiosity, really in service of something larger, so that we might better be the people we want to be? Here's a kind of simple example of how curiosity might lead to a dangerous outcome. I was reading a story the other day about following crows, about a mother and a son, young son, who after seeing the sky, swirling with crows the way they do sometimes, decided to follow them. Where were those crows headed? What were they after? The mom and her son were curious, and so with the boy keeping his eye on the birds while the mom drove, they followed, which is not an easy thing to do, because as it turns out, as a crow flies, is not at all compatible with a grid of city streets. And as the story unfolded, I began to worry about how it was going to turn out, because in my mind's eye, the mom driver was watching the sky, not the road. And certainly they were going to get broadsided at some intersection, like how you feel that just about to happen in some movies when the actors are deep in a conversation in a car. You just know that a crash is about to occur. Well, thankfully this story ended well, but you get my point. Sometimes curiosity needs a little guidance or caution. A couple of different studies from Columbia University and the University of Chicago, just to name a few, have shown that there are indeed some ways that curiosity can be dangerous. Sometimes a strong desire to explore can lead us to ignore hazards, to take unnecessary risks. Sometimes our curiosity is exploited by those who hope that we will fall victim to online scams or clickbait. But if we're curious enough to pursue those things, you know what happens. Our digital and financial security is compromised. Curiosity can take us down rabbit holes that do nothing for our mental health, but rather, especially because of those insipid and evil algorithms, feed our insecurities. And as an aside, the subject of how social media is designed to engineer our curiosity in the interest of manipulating our behaviors deserves a lot of attention. But given my limited time with you, I'll just have to leave that with you to explore. Research shows us that the discomfort of not knowing and the accompanying intellectual impatience is one of the things that leads us to accept fake news or even to create fake memories. We just need somehow to fill in the gaps and avoid unknowns. Referring back to last week's message, embracing the deliciousness of ambiguity is pretty darn difficult. And I suppose we think that when it comes to curiosity, the sky's the limit. But I'm here to suggest that just because we're curious about something does not mean that we should pursue it. Now, researcher Jonathan Schooler says that curiosity has two faces. Not all curiosity is created equal. There is general interest curiosity, and there is deprivation curiosity. General interest curiosity is that which sees the unknown as an opportunity to learn. This kind of curiosity is what motivates us to learn for learning's sake, because it takes this kind of delight in the fact that we don't know everything, and in the fact that there's so much wonderful information out there to graze upon. It accepts that we humans do not and cannot know everything. I didn't know this distinction then, but I guess general interest curiosity is what I was talking about last week. This is the kind of curiosity expressed in the story of the scientist and the mystic shared by Jenna just a bit ago. There's a very honest question: does God exist? And the seeker is openly looking for answers. And when neither the scientist nor the mystic could answer the question with any certainty, the seeker was left with an understanding larger than the question, and was also probably left with even more questions. What is this thing that I'm part of that is larger than my own life? This kind of open and wondering curiosity really instills an appropriate humility within us. The other kind of curiosity, says Schooler, is deprivation curiosity, which really only seeks information in order to fill in a gap. Its motivation is really just to squelch that discomfort of not knowing, and because it hates uncertainty, as I said, it's linked to a lack of intellectual humility. It's the kind of curiosity in the person who feels they have to be an expert and to have the answers, even if those answers were landed upon without any kind of discernment. And again, this might be part of the reason fake news is so prevalent, because having an answer, to be sure of something, becomes so much more important than having the right answer, and certainly more important than not knowing. Now, I know that story about the boy with the bird in his hands is not at first glance a story about curiosity. I think it's more often used as a morality tale about the impact of our choices. Still, I think curiosity plays a role for both the boy and the wise man. The boy is curious about how and if he can trick the man. The wise man, on the other hand, puts curiosity aside in order to serve the moment in the best way possible. You know, for the wise man, if the wise man had felt the need to have the answer to the boy's direct question, was the bird alive or dead? Either answer would have turned out to be wrong and would have played right into the boy's pernicious questions. And instead, the wise man chose to look for or even be curious about another possible answer, one that would provide an important lesson. The answer is in your hands. And so this got me curious. What made it possible for that man to be so wise? Well, neuroscience tells us that curiosity thrives when our nervous systems feel safe and secure. In a calm state, our brains release dopamine, which fuels the desire to explore, which promotes neuroplasticity, enabling us to better learn. As expressed in our opening words, we would hope that this space, this community, is that place of safety and calm for all who enter, a place that encourages humble curiosity. However, when we're stressed or feeling insecure, our brains shift to survival mode, actively locking us out of any open curiosity so that we can focus on those immediate threats. They don't have to be real. Whatever the perceived threat is, we turn into survival mode, and deprivation curiosity sets in, making us want to have answers, even if they're wrong. General interest curiosity is available only to us when we're comfortable enough with ourselves that it feels safe enough to question and to be open to the vulnerability of the unknown. And it follows then, at least for me, that being willing to sit in the unknown and to feel comfortable and safe there can be a source of wisdom. Now, what's the so what of this message? How does it have any relevance to your lives or to mine? Here's the thing, curiosity in and of itself is amoral. It has no intrinsic value. But one writer suggests that it becomes immoral when it is mixed with the absence of rational fear and empathy for others. Curiosity becomes immoral when we've kind of lost rationality and empathy for others. In other words, curiosity's value, its worth, is dependent on how we choose to use it. It's in our hands. Again, referring back to last week, our consciousness, our ability to know, may be the thing that drives curiosity, but it's our conscience, our conscientiousness that helps to determine when and how to use our curiosity for good. And it's critical that we balance our desire to discover with our sense of interrelatedness and this awareness that would have us protect and care for ourselves and others. Our consciousness, our need to know, may drive our desire to see if we can get to Mars. But it's our conscience that may ask if this is the best use of our resources. Might we be more curious about how we can feed and house everyone on the planet? Our consciousness may impel us to follow the seeming limitlessness of artificial intelligence. But our conscience might suggest that we should at the very least be curious about its long-term consequences and its impact on our brain and our relationships and our planet. Our consciousness might make us want to be the ones with the right answer when trying to build relationships and to create a community, doing it in a way that ensures that everyone is of like minds. But our conscience might guide us to be curious about other opinions, other perspectives, other experiences outside of our own, not in the interest of nosy meddling or deprivation curiosity that need to be know-it-alls, but of honestly and respectfully wanting to know the other. It's only in this way that we avoid, or might be able to avoid, this kind of intractable conflict and polarity that is so prevalent in our world today. To practice conscientiousness, to pay attention to our moral values, our accountability to the whole, then, is what provides a natural limit on a limitless curiosity that might otherwise lead us astray. Unitarian Universalist ethicist and author Sharon Welch writes that the wellspring of decency or moral action is loving this life in which people die, people suffer, there are limits, and we make mistakes. She goes on, the wellspring then of moral action is not utopia, not a counterfactual vision, not a declaration that the world could and should be a certain way. Rather, it is a deep affirmation of the joy and richness and blessing that the world is. You see, there are indeed doors we should not open, paths we should not pursue. But when, like the seeker in the story, we think about our dependence on forces larger than ourselves and about the interdependence of all existence, there's no limit to the wonder and mystery we might encounter. The wellspring of moral curiosity is a love for this vast and unknowable world. And if out of that love we can be curious about what is, I think we are sure to discover richness and blessings therein. It is, after all, in our hands. May it be so.
Thanks for listening. You can find much more about humanism and what's happening at First Unitarian Society of Minneapolis by visiting our website at firstunitarian.org.